Hey everybody, so sorry that this was a little bit later than I thought it was going to be. I kept redoing the tutorial and I wanted to make sure I'm as explicit as possible to give you the best possible demo that you need. So I'm working right now in 3D Zephyr Free, which I'll give you the link to. It is a Windows only program that allows you to do photogrammetry from 50 photos. That's the 50 photo limit that it has. So I want to go through all the steps with you, and I'm going to go through all the steps, though I will pause during processing time to make things magically go faster. There are some things that we're going to stop though, because there's going to be a second part of this project. I don't need to worry about that just yet. So follow along. There's really 4 parts of this project. We're going to do really part 1 and 2 today. Part 3 and 4 we're going to do next week. So first things first, I went to the museum and I photographed an object. I wanted the object to be something that was solid, which means obviously we don't want it to be soft or too many holes in it. We don't want it to be glass. We don't want it to be reflective. We don't want it to be furry. So that kind of thing. So stone is good. Actually, I did a bunch of demos here. Big sculptural demos. Also something I'm able to get above and below if possible. So what I did was I looked at this object here, which is pretty cool. I was able to go all the way around it. By the way, that means that I'm physically moving around. I'm not just tilting my camera and turning my camera. I'm walking around the object. Standing in one spot and just kind of, swooping from side to side is interesting, but it isn't enough data. In addition to doing that, going all the way around, I actually went above and below. So I'm looking down on the object so I can get all points of view. So I can look down on the object. And then lastly, I went and I got on my knees and I went up on the object as well. So this idea of looking up from above and from below. So I'm trying to create as many different sort of orbits above and below, but I want to make sure that my camera keeps changing. Remember, if you're shooting from above and I go like this and like this, it's the same picture. Just rotate it. Rotate it is the thing. You want to be spatially moving around the object. Now, this is one of the demos that I have for you. The problem is there's 82 photos here, and I already told you there's a 50 photo limit. So I need to be able to reduce my images before I can move on. And so part 1 is photograph the damn object. Go out there, find something that is solid, something that you can get around, something that you can get all the way around, above, below. Again, avoid glass, reflective, soft, and things with like way too many. There's a hole in this, but it'll be fine. The more solid, the better. Oh, and nothing too smooth. You want texture or detail, something they can pick up on, nothing that's boring. So I've got it to delete. If there's 82 photos in this folder, I have to delete. Oh my God, 32 pictures, right? To get down to 50. So how am I going to do that? Well, to be honest with you, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to delete anything that looks blurry to me. That one looks blurry. That one looks blurry. That one looks blurry. That one looks blurry. 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 Color shift is a weird one as well. I could decide that I want to get rid of the color shift ones, but first I'm just going to go for blurry. 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 That's bad, by the way, because I probably could have used some of those. Blurry. Why is it blurry, by the way? It's blurry because I was moving too quickly. This was like the 5th one I shot, and I was like in a hurry. But it makes a really good demo. Blurry. 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 That's the same picture. Blurry. Oh, blurry. 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 Blurry, blurry. Good. Icky, icky. I'm going to blurry. 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 Good. Good. Blurry. Blurry. Good. All right. So I think that was all of them. Now the question is how much... Oh, look at that. I'm down to 49 pictures. Woohoo! Okay. If I wasn't down to 49 pictures, I would have to then look for images that were very similar. Images where I was just like, that's the same picture. I'm going to have to reduce my image set. So there's a challenge. Shoot all you need, make sure they're good, and then get rid of the ones that you don't need. Are we so good so far? Again, part 1, shoot. Part 2, cull. Install the 3D Zephyr software and walk through every step with me along the way. When I say there are really two stages, the first stage is literally going out in the field and shooting. The second stage is actually doing the work in 3D Zephyr. So let's take a look at 3D Zephyr free. The link is included. You'll install it for Windows. There you go. File, clear. Nice big empty canvas for me to work with. Now for the workflow, I'm going to create a new project, and it's going to ask me some questions, and I'm going to uncheck the first three objects. I don't want to compute the 3D model because I've got work to do. I don't want to compute the texture because I have work to do. I don't want to mask the images. That's advanced. Do I want to check online for pre-computed camera calibration? Yes. And matter of fact, it's very important that I turn my camera so that it's no longer shooting in the HEIC mode, but in the more compatible JPEG format. So if you've got an iPhone, go into your camera settings and save it as JPEGs and not in the the high quality. It's called the more compatible setting, and this way it'll actually pick up your camera settings, which will be very useful. Now I want to drop my 49 photos into the here. I'm going to hit next, and it's going to automatically pick up the calibration of my camera, which is very useful. You don't want to lose the metadata, so you definitely want to capture it as a JPEG. Now when I hit next, it's going to ask me what kind of these presets, which I'm going to leave as default. So I'm not going to tell it what it is. I'm not going to tell it any of the types of things. I'm just going to leave everything as default. And when I hit next, it's going to say, all right, run. Now, when I run, what is this step in this process? It's going to analyze all the photos and try to figure out, based on where they match up with each other, spatially, where was I when I took these photos. So it's going to attempt to place the cameras in a space and create what's called a sparse cloud. That's step one. I'm going to run it right now. And like magic, no time has passed. That's because I actually paused the video. If you want to have some fun, you can look at the clock jump so you can see how long each step took. Now, if you look over here, it says reconstruction successful. 49 photos out of 49 have been oriented. It's possible that some of your photos won't get oriented. It's because they're blurry, it's because they're too close, it's because whatever the reason, it wasn't found to be useful. Now, it's nice to know this because what you could do is you could go through and you could delete those and then bring in some of the other ones and try this step all over again. Luckily, all 49, like I have room for one more photo. I could go back and put another photo in there. I'm not going to. By the way, even though I culled by deleting, I had a backup of that somewhere. Don't worry about that. Oops. All right, so 49 of 49 have been oriented. That's good news. I hit finish, and oh my God, look at that. Now let's go through and take a look how the navigation works in this software. One of the reasons I've done this demo a few times is I keep forgetting to show you some of the parts of the software that I need to show you. And the first thing is the navigation framework over here. There's the enable orbit camera style, enable pivot camera style, or enable free look camera style. Now right now we're in the enable orbit style, which means that if I come over here, I can actually orbit around what would ever be the central point, which of course makes sense. All the little blue things are the cameras, which is wild. And if I use, this is the left key that I'm holding. If I use the center key on my keyboard, the center mouse button, the scroll wheel, I can zoom in and zoom out. And I also can click the scroll wheel and I can slide back and forth to see where I'm looking. Now what's neat about this is that if I come over here, you're going to see like, yeah, that's really the object that I was looking at. But you're also going to notice that there's a lot more than just the object. There's also this wall over here and this corridor. And if I zoom out, you're going to go, wait, boy, it picked up a lot of data. Matter of fact, this is all the stuff it saw in the fringe, which is really, really wild. Now, in the other program which I normally teach, which is Agisoft, if I were to compile it right now, it actually would try to build this part of the room. But what I've noticed is this software only tends to look at what's in the orbit. So I don't have to do any deletion if I don't want to. The other thing is where is it in space? Look, it's raised up in space. Where is my floor? Where is it? Now, this may actually be weird for you. So I'm going to point out in a second how we can do some transformations. But before we do that, if I come over here to enable pivot camera style, that means wherever I click, that's the central point of my pivot. I click here, I'm pivoting here. I click here, I'm pivoting here. And that's where I'm zooming in on. I click here, that's where I'm zooming in on. Now, both of these are very useful styles, but you just got to make sure you remember what it is, where the last point you clicked was, so you can kind of zoom in and zoom out. Again, this is what's known as a sparse cloud. I'm going to go back to the enable orbits, all right? So this is my sparse cloud. So I had 49 cameras, which have now been aligned into this sparse cloud. Also, by the way, probably should save the project at this point. Never hurts to save the project. I'm calling this, what did I call this? Block demo, right? So this would be block demo. So the file is saved, and there you go. Now, one of the things that you can do is you can transform what you're looking at. So for instance, let's say that I wanted to actually bring this down, or I wanted to rotate it. Let's say that I don't like the fact that it's off axis. Over here you have the scale, rotate, translate object, and I can do is, and it brings up a little transform object window down here. But what I could do is I could rotate this like this, and then if I hit apply, that allows me to re-see how things work. Now you've got really three items here: the boxes scale, the lines translate, and of course the orbits orbit. So if I wanted to slide this over this way, I could do it like that. Oops, but I don't want to do that because that would be bad. And because I decided to undo it, undid everything. Damn it. All right, so I can come back over here like this, and I could rotate like this, and I hit apply, and then I can slide this over like this. And if I wanted to, like that, rotate, I could apply and OK, and there you go. Now I could bring it down some, but I'm not going to do that just yet. But that's why you get the idea that you can transform along the way if you need to, especially if the world looks, well, awfully crooked. And by the way, right now, my world looks awfully crooked. Let's do that again. And this time, let's go that way. That makes me feel a little bit better. Apply. And then I can go a little bit new, like, boy, is this trying to snap me out of here. Cancel. Let's do that again. Da-da-da. All right, that's good. Okay. That's good enough to get started. All right. So step one was we brought in the photos and aligned them. Step two is we have the sparse cloud, and I decided to transform it a little bit. Now, normally people go to the 3D model generation, which we're not going to do. We're going to go to advanced because we want to do this in multiple steps. 3D model generation does two things. It creates from the sparse cloud a dense cloud, and from the dense cloud a mesh. I don't want to do them all at once. I want to stepwise through this because I want to be in full control over my process. So I'm going to do a dense cloud, point cloud creation, which is going to use all 49 cameras. Same defaults as before. I'm not going to adjust them. And what's going to happen when I hit run, I'll hit run so I can finish talking while it's doing it. What happens when I hit run is it's going to take those cameras, which are aligned in space, so the pictures turn them into cameras. Now the cameras are going to turn it into data sets. And it's going to create a data set from it. But this is going to take quite a bit of time, so I will pause, and like magic, you will see me come back. Ooh, and we're back. A dense point cloud generation successful. All right, so okay, now if you'll notice that most of the data has been deleted, which I think is very fascinating, that you'll see all the other data that was there is kind of gone. Of course, I'm going to hit save, by the way, right now. I now have my dense point cloud, which is wild. And now, before I go on, this is where we need to start playing some games. Because before I turn my point cloud into a mesh, what I want to do is get rid of the data that I don't need. Because otherwise, it's going to try to include it in the mesh. Now, some of this is easier than others. Like over there. If I come over here, you can say, wait a second, I don't need that data. So I go to editing, by hand, lasso, and I could grab that and delete it. I can also delete all of that, which is easy too. I could come over here and delete all of that, which is easy too. Now I want to back up and delete all of that, which is easy too. So I can zoom in and zoom out and start deleting data. Now you're going to have to close this window before I go back to rotating things. Now, some of this gets a little more challenging, again, because I am going to be trying to create a watertight model at some point. Watertight meaning a truly solid model. So I'm zooming in and zooming out and panning in and panning around, and all of this should be familiar to you. And again, if not in this software, in some other modeling software. And again, you want to be very, very careful that you don't delete your actual object. So I can come back over here to by hand, use the lasso tool, and I can comfortably come over like this and know that I haven't done anything bad. Just like I can come over here, and I can comfortably come over here like that and know I haven't done anything bad. Now when I come back up here, it's a little trickier, right? Close this window, zoom back around, and ooh, yeah, you got a lot of work to do there, don't you? So you really need to start thinking about it. Now, I don't mind if there's a hole in this at some point, because at some point I'm going to be able to delete some more of it when the time comes. But I want to get as much of it as possible while being conservative. So I can come over here and say, I feel comfortable like there. But that's about it. I know some of this doesn't need to be here, but I just don't want to over delete just yet. So I'd rather be wrong than right. I would rather come over here and have more data to delete later than not. So will I leave that stray pixel there? Probably. Now, the trickier part is the top. Now, why do I have all these little brown dots there? Is because I didn't get enough shots from above, which is why I'm hoping you watch the tutorial like I told you to before you do your shooting, because you're going to realize that I don't want to have to go back and get another photo, and also figure out where to stick it in because I only have room for one more photo. But this is where the background is being seen as the top of the object, because the top of the object is kind of missing. And again, I can come over here, angle it a little bit, go back to my by hand, my lasso, and bring it around like that. There you go. That looks pretty good. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. You want it to be as perfect as you can, right? Oh, like, yeah, if I come over here, dip down, come around, like, that is not there. Like, that's part of the object that's missing, as in it's supposed to be missing. Also, it'd be better if I had looked upwards. But I'm going to come over here and grab some more of that. Probably could even grab some more of the yellow if I wanted to. You get really fun playing with these lasso tools. It's an art form. It's just like in Photoshop. All right, that's enough for now. Oh, no, it is not. Oh, look at that. There's some more in there. And again, I'm only deleting stuff that is so clearly not part of the model. There's no question I'm not going to run into any problems with it. But I am doing this all freehand. If things were lined up properly, I could use the rectangle tool, the rectangle tool, which will make my life a little bit easier. Oops. And again, if you make a mistake, just highlight something else. There we go. Beautiful. Yeah. Click over here and hit save again. So yeah, there's like a little bit of data over there, and hopefully there's some really clever algorithms here that may actually take care of some of this. But in the meantime, this is what we have so far. This is our dense cloud. All right. So, summarize. I'm going to keep summarizing. Took a bunch of photos, culled the photos, loaded the photos, aligned the photos, made a sparse cloud, took the sparse cloud, made a dense cloud, edited the dense cloud to get rid of the extraneous data, and now I'm going to create a mesh from that dense cloud. Workflow, advanced, mesh generation. All 49 cameras, same sort of thing, general and general. Next, and run, and like magic, I'll pause it. And like magic, we're back. Mesh creation successful. A new triangular mesh has been added to the workspace. And if I hit finish, oh, look at that. And really, I just like salivate when I see these things. It's like, oh, that is just beautiful. And part of this is great, right? And you see, oh, look at that spot right there. That's not good. That's not good. That is really, it's weak, but that one spot is bad. Its funny part is that hole is amazing. Look at that hole. Look at that hole. That hole is great. There was actually a little bit of red back there too. Now this isn't perfect yet, and we're okay with that. But when we look at the bottom, what do we find? We find that there's just some schmutz here that we don't want. So one of the things that we need to do is we need to figure out just how much we need to get rid of to make this, do what we need to do. And what that means is that I need to delete some more stuff. Now, obviously, some of this is very easy to watch, right? Like if you look at this, clearly I want to come over here and delete this line of yellow because that's the base. So I'm going to go back to my hand, and I'm going to use the lasso tool. Well, there's a poly tool. Here we go. Use the poly tool. I'm okay if I eat into it a little bit because I know it's on the bottom of the model. But, all right, let's come over here. Delete that. Oh yeah. Don't worry about the jaggedy edges yet. It's gonna get fixed in a second. Let's come over here and do the other side. And again, I'm gonna come around like that by hand. Polygonal lasso tool. 1, 2, 3. Oops. Do it again. If I made a mistake, just do it from scratch. There we go. So I'm going to get rid of all of the stuff I know is bad. All right, so that part's good. Now I got to see what more on the bottom I can do. All right, so this part over here, it's a little bit trickier here. Because, you know, it goes all the way through. So, you know, kind of work cuts all the way in. So I'm going to come over here like that by hand. I'm going to do a rectangle and just kind of go up like that and see if that helps. That looks better. Now let's look at the front part. Now this front part's weird because this part looks good, but it's this part that looks kind of icky. So I got to find the right point of view. And then I'm just going to try to slice that part off. And then see what I left. That's not bad. I probably could delete a little bit more of that. So now see how I'm trying to really get in there. Look at this. Really, you really got to like get in there. You really got to make some decisions about how you're going to get in this model. All right, let's do a poly in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, I feel better about that. I feel like I've gotten rid of all the icky stuff there. Now, the other place where there's icky is right here. And that bit of icky kind of sticks out right like there. And I'm just going to chop it off. You're like, wait, how could you chop it off? Because we're deleting bad data. That I should have chopped it off a minute ago. I should have chopped it off in the dense cloud. If I chopped it off in the dense cloud, it wouldn't be here in the mesh. So that's good. That's exactly what I wanted to delete. That's the stuff. I didn't delete anywhere else too badly around here. So now what I want to do is, now that I've done that in this program, I want to come over here to under Tools, Mesh Filters, Fill Holes Watertight. And when I do that, it's going to ask me which mesh, because you can actually have more than one mesh. We're going to get to that in a second. We can have multiples of items. And it's going to ask me what I want to do. Do I want to fill it, or do I want to clone and fill it? If I fill it, then it's going to take this mesh and alter it. Instead, I'm going to hit clone and apply filter. So it's going to make a copy of the mesh. So I have the mesh that I edited, and it's going to have this new mesh, which will be nice because it'll have an iteration of it. Clone and apply filter, and this goes really, really fast, but what it's going to do is it's going to clone that filter and fill those holes in. If I'm not happy, I can go back, and you're going to even see it's already there. Now there's 2 meshes. So we literally can create multiple clouds, and we can create various iterations from the same data set within this program. It just depends on how comfortable you feel making a very firm decision. Now, if you look over here, that looks a little bit better. It filled in the blank. Obviously, it can't fill in the color blank because there really isn't data there, but it looks a lot better. And if we go to the bottom, which is really where I did all the work, let's take a look at what we did on the bottom. All right, so I'm going to come over here to the pivot mode and pivot to the bottom, and that makes a lot more sense, right? Don't worry about the color, worry about the shape. And so the idea is yeah, it's kind of sliced in the bottom, and then it kind of curves up to the top. That's about right. It's a little bit broken there, probably went a little bit too far, but you get the idea. You'll, of course, spend more time than I am. I'm only spending a quick one sit-down demo with you, and this is a learning process for you. You really want to kind of get good at it. Remember, I don't know how your model's going to work. You may have picked the wrong model. Now that I've done this, now look, I have 2 meshes. Now what I need to do is I need to create a texture for this mesh. And I'm going to do that by going to Workflow, Textured Mesh Generation, and it's going to ask me which mesh. By the way, there's now 2 meshes. I can do the mesh with the holes in it or the mesh without the holes in it. Obviously, I want the watertight mesh. I'm going to use the cameras that I have to generate this. Next, again, I'm going to leave my presets alone. Next, and run. And I'll pause for convenience. And we're back. Textured Mesh Generation Wizard results. All right, it worked. Oh my God, isn't that beautiful? Obviously, there's no good data on the bottom, but is that this beautiful? Is this, oops, oh no. That's why I hate that mode. Pivot, back to orbit. Oh no, pivot. Back to orbit. Look at that. You got to admit this is pretty awesome. And I hope you understand why this is part of the virtual reality process. Not everything we do is 3D modeling. And of course, we're going to be playing with whatever model you come up with, by the way. We're going to be living with this model for a bit, which is why I want you to, again, watch this process before you go and shoot. We're going to do something with the model that you generate. But look at that. Now, obviously, there's a little bit of an error here, right? I would need to paint this, and I would need to paint this, but not today. I may also need to resculpt this partly, but not today. That's going to be sort of the next step. It's going to be the polish, which we do outside of this. But from here, this is just it, right? This is just magnificent. So what am I going to do is I'm going to I'm going to export textured mesh, and it's going to ask me what file, and I'm going to make a GLB file. We'll explain more about GLB files later, but in the meantime, I'm going to export it. I'm going to put it in the correct folder, which would be block demo, and I'll call it block demo. And there you go. Interestingly enough, from this program, you can export to Sketchfab. As a matter of fact, I'm going to create a Sketchfab just for our class so we can all upload to the same spot. We're going to be trying to create these sort of, collaborative spaces of stuff as we move forward. All right, now I can save it. And that's literally all we're doing today. One more step we're going to do, but not today in this program. So make sure you save your project because we're going to need to come back to it. Also, you may have made a mistake. What that means is, if I come back over to this program, you're going to find that there's a GLB file, which is 27.5 megabytes, which is pretty big, and the JPEG texture, which is 14.7 megabytes. So together, this is a 42 megabyte 3D model. Let's load it in the Windows viewer. And, oh, look at that. Look at that. I am so happy with that. I don't know about you, but this just tickles me. That's the floor, by the way. That just makes me happy. And again, there's a little bit of red on the back of it. Every little nook and cranny is there. Now, really, what are we looking at? It's always fun, because if I click on View Wireframe, there's the wireframe. Turn the colors off. This is the 3D model. Shadows, shading, reflections, wireframe. Oh, nothing. Look at that. There's nothing here, right? But if I click on colors, wireframe, colors, look at that. So that's the model. And look at the detail on the front versus the detail on the back. Like, you can see almost how these images sort of stitch together based on how I took the photos. So now you've got to ask yourself, if you were to go back to the museum, Jared, would you take the photos differently? And the answer is probably. And that's part of the process. So there you go. Shadows, shading. Oh, look at the shading. So that's your homework. That's your homework. Do this. Create a GLB file with a texture. Name it your last name accordingly. Name it when you go to save it, don't rename it. And then I'll give you a folder to throw it all up into. Also, do last week's homework since you didn't. All right, folks, sorry it took so long to get this video. I've done this video 4 times, and I wanted to make sure it had the right information, because you're going to have to watch it probably twice. Bye.